The Sun Star. 3 grand trees stood on a hill, Lumpy, Stumpy, and Big Old Bill. "Lump," said Stump, "you're a frumped rump. Your trunk's bumps are like a camel's humps." Big Bill stood still on the hill, saying nil. "Stump," said Lump, "you crumped sump pump. I'd thrump your rump, chump, if it weren't such a dump." Big Bill instilled goodwill on the hill, thrilled from the refill of Sunstar's morning chill. The dew lifted, a long quiet fell. The mood shifted, the hell of pell-mell quelled. Hello, and welcome back to Gardening with Andrew. Today, we're looking at geraniums? No, pelargoniums. Pelargoniums, which apparently is the actual name for the plant that I grew up with that has that thick, fleshy inner kind of tube, very succulent-like, and it smells super weird. You know the one I'm talking about. So has beautiful flowers, kind of excellent five-sided leaves, and the whole thing has like a horseshoe sort of shape on it. Ancient classic plant, which honestly I didn't like for a long time, but I'm starting to appreciate it just for its bizarreness, if nothing else. So today we're going to look at how to make more of them from cuttings. And here we have our pelargoniums. We got this red guy right behind me, and then this purpley white one over here, and then we have a few other cuttings that aren't flowering just yet. But I'm going to take a cutting from the big guy and this purpley guy over here, just to kind of show you that it's basically the same thing. Doesn't matter. As long as we're talking about pelargoniums, which most of us have always called geraniums. So this is basically a geranium if that's what you're thinking of. But these guys, you know them because they have like the really thick stems that are very easy to break, and they smell like super weird. Sometimes they smell like apple or peppermint, or some people say they smell like peaches and stuff like that. But to me, they just smell like grandma, So anyway, well, that's what we're going to take a cutting of here. And what we're looking for in our cutting is anything that looks strong, vigorous, happy, healthy, pest-free, and it doesn't have any flowers going on. If it's about to make a flower, we can just take that off, but we don't want it flowering at the same time as us trying to make roots. It can do roots or it can do flowers. It cannot do both. So let's find a good one. So down here on the bottom's a good spot. So I'm just going to find a good spot, use my nice sharp shears, and make a cutting. I'm going to take a bigger piece than I really need because I can cut it down to get it the right size. So just make kind of a rough cut where it looks good, kind of like you're just pruning the plant. Don't worry about it right here and there. When you want to get it just right is when you're actually about to put it in. So now that we have a big chunk like this, what we're going to do is remove almost all of the leaves. The leaves are a problem now. The second I cut this, it's a race between the leaves drawing out all the moisture in the plant and killing it, and the base part making new roots. The base is already making new roots from the time I cut it, and the leaves are already spending water to make the whole chlorophyll thing go on. So it's going to run out of water at some point, but if the roots can get going, then there can be more water to replenish it. So we want to balance the ratio out in the favor of the roots. It needs some greenery to do the chlorophyll thing, but it needs roots more than it needs greenery right now because it has a bunch of energy stored in the stalk. So I'm going to take out that whole bit there, and I'm going to take out that guy. You really want to get everything off the bottom part, first of all. And so now we can kind of see what's going on in there. Get rid of that guy too. Oh, beautiful. Oh, and look at that. There's actually a flower forming in there too. Get rid of that. Get going. Beautiful. Okay, so now we got this bit here, and we can think about where we want to cut it along this part here. And what you're looking for is any of the nubbly bits, the sticky outy bits, right? So you find like a big sticky outy bit that had leaves growing out of it a second ago before I cut them off, and you want to cut just on the outside of it or just on the bottom side. Basically, you want to keep the knobbly bit with the plant. It's part of the plant. The knobbly bit should be the last part of the plant, because the knobbly bit, called a node, is where the roots come out of. So I'm going to get just about close and cut it off right there. But now we have this guy here, and it still has too many leaves for my taste. And it really is a matter of taste. People leave different amounts of leaves on, saying it's the right amount or whatever. Experimentation is what you should do. So I feel like 1 or 2, maybe 3 is good. So that looks good to me. So the base has a nice clean cut. It's right under a node, but keeping the node with the plant. And it looks pretty healthy, happy, no flowers. We're ready to go. Then you can just get yourself one of these 6-packs or a little pot or whatever. A 3-inch pot would work as well. I like these guys because they're space efficient, you know? And I already have a bunch of them because you buy them from the shop, right? So you can fill it up with a little bit of dirt, about halfway, and then stick your guy in there. And then fill it up with a little bit more dirt. It's not really like, if it's floppy and falling all over the place, kind of put it up against the edge and let the plastic bits hold it together, and that'll work too. It doesn't really matter where it is in the pot. As always, you know, we're going to push down on the dirt, but remember, there's no roots here yet, so we're going to push pretty hard this time. We really want to compact it in, not like super hard, but like harder than we would with roots. Push that down there so it's nice and firm, so this isn't wobbly. That's our main goal here. If this is wobbling around when the wind blows or we pick it up or we water it, it's going to tear the little roots we're trying to form. So what we're trying to do here is keep it stabilized. So that means a firmer soil than we normally would. And the soil can be whatever, you know, honestly, don't worry about it too much. There's so little in here, right? I mean, people wax poetic about the different kinds of soil for seed starting and stuff. Just use potting soil. Don't worry about it. All right, beautiful. There we go. We got it in there. And with the magic of editing, pelargoniums are fully grown and sprouted, ready to move on to their next phase. Which is, in this case, putting in these little tiny adorable pots. Now, you could plant it in the ground or put them in a bigger pots. We're moving soon, so I'm going to keep them in small pots so they're more transportable. But you could put them in the ground at this point. But remember, not frost hardy, so they need to come inside if they're going to go into the garden directly. You need a way to protect them if you're in one of those frosty kind of areas of the world. But for today, they're going in little tiny pots. And we have 5 here that have come up out of the 6 in this 6-pack. So pretty good outcome. And inside this here, I just made up some dirt. This is a combination mostly of Fox Farms Forest Floor, which is a fantastic kind of all-purpose potting compost sort of fellow. But it has a few other things, some rocks, like some pebbles, the kind of like gravel, I guess you could say. Just toss them in there, which helps improve the drainage. If you have any perlite or vermiculite, either one of those would also help with the drainage. And I've also tossed in a little bit of garden soil, just straight up like find a bare spot in your garden, dig up some dirt and put it in there. It's kind of weird, but that inoculates this fairly sterile, you know, kind of bagged thing, and it turns it into something that's alive. Remember, the bugaboos that live in this are what makes healthy soil, and healthy soil makes healthy plants. So make sure you're taking care of your soil first, and that'll take care of your plants. We got these guys here. What we're going to do is put them in these pots here. Yeah, look at that. Oh, beautiful. And remember, I'm going to put in some dirt here, but I'm not going to fill it really more than a third, half at most. And that's true anytime you put stuff in pots. That's like the trick, right? Don't overfill it, because this takes up space. So you got to, you know, make sure there's enough room in there. Maybe like a little bit less. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to pop one of these guys out. I want to push at it from the bottom. My only goal here is to protect roots. I want to protect them no matter what. The roots are what matters here. If I lose all the leaves in this process, that doesn't matter. The roots are what matters at this point. And I'm going to try to let gravity do as much as possible. So I pushed on the bottom a little bit, kind of loosened it up, squeezed on the edge, and then I'm just going to kind of float it out there. Beautiful. Unrelated. And this guy, oh, look at that. Beautiful. We can see there's roots all the way down. There's some at the bottom kind of clumping up. And I don't want to look at this too long because the exposure to the raw air is too much for the roots. But look at that. Gorgeous. Just what we want to see in a cutting. So we know this cutting is viable. I mean, the leaves tell us that. But, you know, that's a good sign too. More roots is more good. And I'm going to sprinkle in soil around the edges, kind of turning it as I go. Oh, lovely. And then once I got it in on all the sides there, I'm going to gently push it in around the plant. I'm not pushing down on the soil. I'm not tamping it like you would a fine espresso. I'm pushing in around the edges just to make sure there's no soil pockets, like air pockets. The weird thing about roots is that they love oxygen, but they hate too much oxygen, which I guess is the same for us. If we were in like 100% oxygen, our brains would explode or something like that. But then you got to spell pelargonium. And again, you could put that in the ground or in a big pot if you have the room, or whatever you want to do with an arrangement of other plants. You know, these guys, very flexible. They can handle it. And that's geranium cuttings. No, pelargonium cuttings. Yes, right, that too. So either way, whatever you call them, those deliciously bizarre smelling plants are actually super easy to propagate, and it's easy to make them more and more and more, and you can spread and fill out an entire garden. Even though they're technically like high sun kind of plants, they work in low shade as well. The ones that we have here get almost no direct light, and they're doing great. So plant them in any kind of corner you want, a little bit of that weird grandma smell, and it will make the entire experience of gardening just a little bit more rich and bizarre. It's a lovely thing. Thank you for tuning in. If you feel like it, you know, subscriptions with the button that you press costs you nothing, costs me nothing, but it makes me feel better. So do that. No, let's, yeah, sure. Let's go with that. And that's Pelargoniums. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Okay. Bye. Goodbye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye. Bye, 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 bye. Oh, also, a last-minute addendum. Way back when we did a video about the moonflower, which is a vine that grows these big, beautiful, white, trumpet-shaped flowers in the evening and morning times. And I had a question from Jen Santa asking me how they were doing. And let's take a look. Unfortunately, they've been plagued by aphids. The ones that were inside got the same problem as soon as they moved outside. So the whole lot of them kind of suffered equally, and now they're all here mixed together and starting to make a recovery. This soil right here is very clay heavy, and it's hard for baby plants to get a start out. As you can see by the other, these are all flowers in here, they're all kind of having a hard time getting going, but I know they'll make it eventually. So the moonflowers are in the back. This is probably the biggest one right here. And you can see the leaves down here kind of not looking great. But this whole new growth is just from the last week. So they're making a comeback. And the way that they're structured, the way that they feel, the energy, makes me think that they're going to grow up big and tall. So all they really need at this point is plenty of water and, you know, some staking. And we'll just put it in there next to it. We don't really need to tie it in. It knows how to climb things. If you're just buying moonflower seeds, which you totally can, find them on the interwebs, If you're going to plant them now, plant them right in the ground. Don't bother with pots and stuff. Now that the land is warmed up enough, at least if frost is done where you are, I should say. Here in California, it's sweltering degrees at all times, so we don't have any problems with frost. But if you have frost where you are, they still go in pots. They still go indoors, not someplace nice and warm, like top of the fridge, something like that. And then once they're sprouted, then they can start moving towards a window, and then once the frost is gone, you put them in the ground. But if you are frost-free, then find a good place to put them next to something that they can climb up against, and maybe give them a little support when they're young, lots of water, and you're all set. So if you do have any good pictures of that, I would love to see them. So send them in to the old YouTube thing.